All right, a few assignments today. First one's going to be interquartile range. All right, so you notice it says sort the data from least to greatest. We're going to go ahead and do that. That's already done. All right, now I'm going to use Microsoft Excel just like we did from the last lesson. I'm going to type these in, 0. If it's a fraction, you can just type the fraction in. Oh, wait, it thinks it's a month. Darn it. All right, so here's what we can do. Still a month. All right. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to change the format of the number. All right, so up here, this whole row, let's click number. All right, just like that. So equals 1/4. All right, now we're good, 0.25. If you wanted to get around that little trick, you could just put the decimal in if you know the decimal, just like that right there. So there's two halves, 5/4. All right, now I'm going to show you a few things here. All right, so IQR is going to be the first one. Another assignment, we're going to find the variance. We're going to do standard deviation of population, and we're going to do standard deviation of sample. All right, so this assignment is IQR, so it's going to be here. So what we're going to use to do this is this command up here to the top. All right, it's called quartile exclusive. All right, so let's type it in here. Equals quartile exclusive. All right, there's two things we need to do. We're going to highlight the area, and it says what quartile? Well, we want first quartile. And then for this one, we want the same thing, but we want to type 3 for third quartile. All right, interquartile range, that's what IQR means. Interquartile range is the distance between them. So the math would look like this. Hey, we want to take this minus that number. Now, we don't really need a calculator for that, right? It's going to be 1. But in order to calculate the first quartile, we can type in that code there on Excel. Another way to do it would be do it by hand. If I did it over here on Khan Academy, it would look like this. What we want to do first is find the median. There's our median, right? Our median is that 1 right there in the middle. Then I take each half and I split it in half. So there are 5 things down here. That means I'm looking at 1/4 as the first quartile, just like Excel spit out. And on this upper half, 5/4 is the other quartile. The IQR is a range. It's a distance. So how far apart are these two things? Well, we just came up with it. It's 1, right? If not, something you couldn't do in your head, we could just subtract like that. All right, next assignment is standard deviation. So standard deviation of a population. I'm going to go ahead and use the same numbers that I have on this Excel sheet. If I wanted to do standard deviation of a population, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to say STD, and we notice there's a bunch of different standard deviations. Since we're talking about a population, I'm going to use the one that says .P. I'm going to double click it, highlight all the numbers, and that's our standard deviation. It's that easy. All right, if you wanted to do it by hand, it's a lot longer calculation. I can show you that later. All right, equals STD. If I select the one with an S, that's for a sample. Notice it's slightly different. It's because they divide by a little bit different number. All right. The last assignment you're going to see is the one with variance, at least on this video. Variance has the same thing. You have to determine whether it's for a population or a sample. All right, if it's for a population, we use that. If it's for a sample, we use this. All right, so what's the difference? Let's go to that assignment really quick. All right, you have found the following ages of all 5 gorillas at your local zoo. What is the average age of the gorillas at your zoo? What's the standard deviation? So standard deviation is the question. Which one do we use? Do we use population or sample? That's the tough part. It's all about how the information is given to you. It says that you have all of the gorillas at your zoo. If we have information on everyone or everything in a certain sample, everything in a certain population, sorry, that's a better word. These are all of the gorillas at a zoo. We didn't take a sample of some of the gorillas at the zoo. This is ages for all of the gorillas at the zoo. So that's a population. Just like when we measure the population of a town, we try to count everyone in the town. So this is a population. All right, so for this problem, I'm going to pull this up. Let's delete all this data. Type in 8, 4, 14, type in all the numbers. If I want the sample standard deviation, it would be this. However, we want population on this one because we measured the ages of all of the gorillas at the zoo. If they had said, hey, there are 50 gorillas at the zoo, we took a sample of 5. That's a sample. That's when we would use a sample standard deviation. If we're using a population, again, we use .p. It says round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to say 4.4. They also ask us to do the average age. Remember, that's the same thing on here as doing the mean, right? Same thing. Average and mean are the same. We're going to type average of this data. All right, that's all.